Thanks for the Shirley Temple, boss. You hear? Now that we've gone through that history lesson, we can get into the meat and bones of this. Starting off with the first encounter. Summer 2019. It was the end of the first year of college for me. I actually enjoyed college a lot more than I did high school. The adults back in high school always said, "Chris, college is going to be way harder than high school, so you better buckle up and strap in." Well, frankly, you're a goddamn liar. College is way easier than high school. There isn't as much homework. It's a lot simpler. These are classes you want to take that you think you can understand even more, rather than taking, I don't know, random classes that you need for your GEs or anything. GE means general education, if you don't know. But I was enjoying college. You see, in college, they make you choose a major to follow, so you can basically follow a plan in order to achieve all the requirements you need in order to achieve a degree in that major. Well, initially I had started off in the field of biology, but eventually, after some talky talk with a certain somebody in my household, I decided to change. I changed my major to political science, and I had a plan for political science, just like I did for biology, was gonna get me into med school and eventually, do whatever doctor things it was that I had planned. But for now, we're gonna leave those details out because they're not really relevant. But either way, the goal was to get into poli-sci, get into law school, enter the treacherous world that is U.S. politics. Which side? You may never know. Woo! And quite possibly, maybe off in the future, like, I don't know. How old am I? Alright, what's 20 plus... Okay, 15 years in the future. I may want to, you know, go and try to, I don't know, maybe, end myself up somewhere in a big White House in Washington, D.C. Maybe, maybe not, maybe. Little did I know that entering the world of political science in order to achieve my hopes and dreams was going to be through a trial of fire. No, I literally didn't get poured gasoline onto me and get set alight with a match or cigarette butt or anything like that. But at least to say that this was 100% for sure, I swear to God, the worst teacher I've ever had the experience of learning from. Alright, next. Enter front and center. We're going to be calling him Idi Amin. We've already established who that is, and the actions only further prove why I call him this. Let's say that, yeah. And just as a word of warning, I know the college may or may not want to silence me in order to stop the quote-unquote slander against such a well-respected professor. But if you ever attend Pasadena City College, I highly recommend that you go to the place across the street. I'm not sure if it's still there due to the virus that came from the place where rice comes from, because I'm pretty sure I can't directly say the name. But yeah. But either way, hopefully if it's still there, I recommend you try out the House of Halal right across the street from Pasadena City College. Very good food, affordable for students, and also the waiters very nice. Either way, back to my main point. If you do attend Pasadena City College looking to get into the world of political science, as it's pretty cool and fun, I highly utmost recommend you avoid taking a teacher whose first name sounds a lot like, well, not sounds, but it's very close to France. France. Take a word of warning, folks. I actually got this part recorded once already, and it was actually pretty good, but being the idiot that I am, I forgot to press the record button. So here we go, attempt number 2. Political science at Pasadena City College is labeled as Introduction to American Government and Politics. I'll repeat that again. Political Science 1 at Pasadena City College is labeled as Introduction to American Government and Politics. The description is Introduction to American Government and Politics incorporating California state and local history, constitutions, institutions, and policies. Poli-Science 1 and 2 are usually required for advanced political science courses. Alright? Now, keep that in mind, folks. Now, Idi Amin over here wasn't exactly fond of teaching us, an introduction to American government and politics. While we were supposed to learn about the U.S. Constitution, the good old U.S. of A., where we bleed red, white, and blue, drink beer, shoot guns, and eat hamburgers as well. Yeah, he wasn't exactly all that interested in teaching us what the class course was supposed to be about. Now, what on God's green earth? How is Marxism related to anything about the goddamn Constitution of the United States of America? Marxism didn't even come out until, about a century and a half to 2 centuries later? And let me tell you, when a student asks what this class has to do with what he was teaching us, all he could respond was with hostility, "Oh, you think you know more than me. I am the teacher in this class. I teach you what you need to know. There is no way that you can know more than me. I am a teacher for a reason. I know what to teach you. Now, listen to the lessons I have to teach you, and maybe you'll learn something new." Yes, that's how he talked a lot. I know you're gonna get bored of it, but trust me, I was bored of it as well. And this happened quite a lot. If someone tried to ask, why are we getting off topic, that response was quickly reiterated about how he was the teacher and we were the student. Seemed to be guiding us towards Marxism quite a bit, despite it not really having anything to do with our Constitution or the way our government really is even run. He'd go babble on for about the entire class period about this nonsense, and the only way we got him to stop was because class was over. Now you listen to all that, digest it, and tell me that that's a good teacher. A teacher that goes off topic, reprimands his students for, trying to lead them back on topic, and declare himself the only one who's educated in the subject. Well, if you thought that was bad, you're gonna do a backflip when I tell you what happens next. Now, we were just students between the ages of 18 to, we had a lady who was very old. Like, this was a grandma we're talking about. So, I don't know, 18 to, let's just go with a soft 60. So, these students all were 18 to 60, beginning on their endeavor into the world of political science, bright-eyed, eyes full of hope, willing to learn in order to reach their dreams. God, he didn't make it easy for us at all. What it even had to do with political science, an introduction to American government and politics, I have no idea. But being this was summer and it was a 6-week course, those were probably the most gruesome 6 weeks of my life. No teacher I've ever had in high school came close to being this horrible. So the first test came out about probably half into the first week, which was a surprise because, Like, all my friends who were attending school with me at the time had classes where their tests were given at the end of the first week, not just smack dab in the middle. So there wasn't exactly a whole lot of time to prepare in the first place. But the worst part is this test didn't make any sense. He gave us a study guide, but the study guide was complete BS. The study guide was just a list of terms we should know, but this wasn't a term test. It wasn't asking the definition of, you know, democracy or what a totalitarian government was or anything like that. It was some oddly worded questions that made no sense. They were multiple choice and all the answers were just slight variations of each other, so close that it was hard to tell one from the other. Needless to say, lots of brain power was exercised you attempting to navigate this hellhole of a landscape. The test didn't make any sense. I was pretty sure that I wasn't gonna even pass the first test. But my worries were probably the least of the worries I had to think about at that moment. I was thinking about if the other students were having problems as well. It surely couldn't have just been me. Was I just a dyslexic all this time, incapable of processing and being able to properly read these questions? Or was everyone else giving themselves an aneurysm in order to try to figure out what these damn questions were asking? I wish I could tell you that I remembered what the questions were so I could give you the examples, but they're just so off, weird, and downright strange that I can't remember at all. The wording was off. The questions had nothing to do with either the study guide, quote unquote, that he handed out, or the textbook. That's right, I rented the damn textbook and the textbook didn't even tell me what the hell was going on. You know it's that bad when the textbook doesn't even make sense. So even more questions started popping up while taking this test. What was the future going to look like? Were all these tests going to be as weird as this? Did he make these himself, or was there a site he got it from? Something that we could reference off of and, actually succeed from? Because there is no way any of us were going to pass this class if all the tests were like this. I believed in my classmates. I thought that we were all going to get through this. This first test might have gone horribly, horribly wrong, but if we stuck together, studied up, made sure that we knew everything there was to know, we can make it through this class and actually excel. But when he handed back those first tests, the look upon people's face, including my own, was abysmal. You could tell that some people were utterly shattered by this revelation of the outcome of this test. I'm not blaming them at all. This teacher didn't make any sense whatsoever. When we tried to ask him for help, he said, "Oh, you could always look at the study guide or your textbook. The answer is in one of the two." Yes. He handed back our tests, never gave us our scores, ever. We weren't even allowed to ask what the answer to some questions were because he said, "Oh, there are still some students who haven't taken the test, so I can't allow for that to happen. So you won't tell them." We were just students learning about the introduction of political science. We weren't experts or anything like that. There ever was a need to pray, it was during that point. But no hope was gonna arrive. First test was a massacre. So many people dropped the class. I'd probably say like about half ended up leaving after that first test. And it's understandable why. This was just a fraction of what he had to offer, giving us an impossible test with an impossible task of actually, excelling on the test. None of it made any sense. And to see so many students leave because a teacher whose own incompetence couldn't. Sorry, I'm getting hung up. But to have a teacher whose own incompetence led him to failing so many of his students within that first test, was that something to really be proud of? Could he live with himself sleeping at night thinking, oh, half my students have left. So that must mean I am keeping the cream of the crop with me for the rest of the semester. If that was his thinking, then I wish I could have stomped him in the nuts for that. He was no teacher. He was just a butcher willing to butcher our dreams, hopes, aspirations. Nothing about him was anything like what a teacher is supposed to be. And if we were touchable, what did the rest of the semester have to hold for us? So many students dropped out. So many of them. But I thought maybe there was just a chance. Maybe we could actually still band together and get through this thing. Maybe as a class, we would be able to actually get A's for everyone else. Prove him wrong that we could actually do the stuff that he was giving us. All the BS, all the lies he told us, all the off-topic topics we had to listen to for an entire class period because he felt like rambling on. But the first shed of blood was spilt, and from there on, only more would be spilt. There was nothing we could do to stop it. All we had to do was hope and pray that maybe, on the off chance that, maybe he got struck by lightning when it rained, or maybe he slipped and tripped and ended up in the hospital. It was something that I was not exactly proud of, wishing such horribleness for others, but when you actively discourage your own students from pursuing a career in this field that you teach, maybe you actually do deserve that kind of stuff to happen to you. But after that first test, everything just got worse and worse and worse. There was no turning back, only heading forward straight into the eye of the storm. Now, we actually did band together. We had study groups. We quizzed each other on, terms, about ideologies, about the Constitution and all of its amendments, and, everything else that we were supposed to learn. But that third test wasn't doing us any favors. The second one made slightly more sense than the first, but the third one blew the first ones out of the water. This one made no sense whatsoever. Nothing about it was coherent. Nothing about the wording was, competent. I really do think he was making these tests. Why he would make his own tests, being an old man that he was? Maybe he still thought that he was on top of the world, but his standing on top of the world just meant more trouble for us. Even more people kept leaving the class. Each day was a gamble. Would they show up to class? Would they completely disappear? Would they show up a week later? No one could keep track anymore, and frankly, I don't blame them. I couldn't even keep track anymore. Nothing about it made any sense. How could a school let something like this happen? I don't know. Being that this is college, we're the paying students. We pay for this knowledge. We're the ones dishing out money in order to keep these salaries going for these people. And what do? The school spits in our face and slaps us on our ass and tells us to get out. We didn't even think to organize or anything. It was a tragedy. Now, if you want to know more about him, This was a teacher who said, I have worked at this school for a long time. I am protected by tenure. There is nothing you could do in order to get me out. I know what's best, and the school has shown that by keeping me on with tenure. I I teach what I teach. You don't have to worry about the curriculum. I will make sure that you get all the knowledge you need. Might as well have had rainbows coming out of his ass, right? He thought he was all that. The champion of communism, socialism, in a class where we were supposed to be learning about American democracy and the process behind it. How could this happen to me? I know I've made my mistakes, but at this point I didn't have anywhere to run. The night went on as I faded away. I was getting sick of this life. I just wanted to scream, how could this happen to me? More and more students kept dropping out of the class. When you don't even understand what we're supposed to be, learning or what we're supposed to know or anything, it's understandable. And it just kept happening over and over again. That third test really knocked it out of the park. Many of us were scared. We didn't know what was going on, what we were supposed to do. What were we supposed to do? He was a teacher with tenure that made him basically untouchable, but we were the students, which were clearly touchable targets for him. What were we supposed to do? What are you prepared to do? That was the perfect question. What was I going to do? Was I willing to start making cheat sheets to bring with me into the tests? Ruin my academic integrity? Put away my hopes and dreams behind bars because I got caught for trying to cheat on a test that was rigged against us from the start? Nothing made sense anymore. The questions didn't make sense. The tests didn't make sense. Study guide didn't make sense. Textbook didn't make any sense. People kept leaving. People sometimes came back. People left permanently. We didn't know what was going on. The teacher didn't tell us what we were supposed to do specifically. He just kept giving these vague answers that never actually answered our question. He kept saying, "Oh, you can ask us later. After class, I have office hours." But he didn't ever showed up for our office hours. So what were we left to? Running around in circles, wobbling our heads like a chicken with its head cut off. Everything kept swirling around. We did nothing. Absolutely nothing. All we could do was keep our head down, pray to whatever God was listening out there, and hope that we could make it through this. The whole thing was rigged from the start. He never cared about teaching. All he cared about was spouting out whatever propaganda he wanted to, while telling us, "Oh, you're the next future. You guys will run this country." I wish I could tell you that we were heroes, that we were the good guys who fought back and won. That light, that ray of light that shines through the darkness until the light eventually gulfs everything, showing, the good. But we didn't. We lost. By the end of it all, I can say with confidence there was less than 10 people left in that class. How he could be so proud of himself as a teacher and continue teaching when having so many students drop out because of him, I don't know. This damn tenure thing. punishes students and protects the bad teachers. I thought we were the future. But some crusty old man with a record of having so many students drop out? Is that what makes a good teacher? That gets to stay on payroll? Well, all our struggling was for nothing. Everyone in the class who stayed ended up with an A. I actually talked to someone who had stopped coming to class and never took any of the end tests, but never actually officially dropped out. Somehow he got an A as well. Maybe so the game really was rigged against us from the start. What the hell did any of this have to do with political science? I'm supposed to be learning about the Constitution, for Christ's sake. This was an A that I can wholeheartedly say I don't feel too good about getting it. Not one single bit. After talking to some people who had left the class, so many of them had decided to bury their career in political science into the ground. Switched majors, decided to do something else. One person actually dropped out of college, all because of this. But obviously I'm going to keep their anonymity safe. I'll never understand. Maybe it's better if I never do understand. Unless I become the monster that I feared. While that may have been a complete and utter disaster, there's still one final part we have to get through of this story. So, I hope you stick around, and I'll be here as usual. So, don't leave the channel. If you do enjoy this video, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on that bell notification so you can get updates when I do post another video. And yeah, I hope you all have a good day. Stay frosty out there, because it's kind of hot now. Well, it's summer, of course it's hot. So stay frosty, and I shall see you on the other side of the day. To be continued.